Okay, hi everybody. Okay, we're going to look at chapter 14.2 here in just a minute. I'm sharing my entire screen with you. Got myself up there so you can see me. I do get ready for the day. And how are you guys getting through? You doing okay? I am generally sitting here at my kitchen table because I found this is the best place for me to work. I've got coffee and I've got these. They're terrible. They're delicious, but they're very bad for you. Okay, so anyway, hey, if you've got feedback for me about what works for you and what I'm doing, let me know. I know my videos aren't super fun and exciting. It's not like in class where you can joke around. I wish it were, and I really miss that. My production crew, unfortunately, is quarantined, so I just have to do all this stuff myself, and this is not really what I'm good at. So let's look at some resources over here. And you've probably seen enough of me, so I'm going to go bye-bye now. I do know how to do that. Looky there. But I'm still recording, right? Okay. So I'm posting agendas here. And so when you look at like our plans, I'm trying to put links in here too. Make it easy for you to find things. I'm posting other resources too out here on the discussion board, and you can post questions out here about particular sections, but let me know what works for you or what doesn't. Let's get right into then, without further ado, chapter 14, part 2, where we're going to look at writing off and also collecting uncollectible accounts receivable. So in the first section, I talked about estimating how much we are not going to be able to collect from our customers, because we don't know who is not going to pay us, but we still have to plan that somebody won't pay us. So I get criticized sometimes, like, gosh, you're so negative, but you know, in business, you've got to plan for the unexpected. If you remember on our doors in the room before you guys left, I had up there, don't get ready, be ready. And part of what you have to do in accounting is plan for the things that you don't know may or may not happen. So anyway, first section, we were looking at estimating the uncollectible accounts. And now in this section, we're going to look at what happens when an account becomes uncollectible. What is that next step? So yeah, writing off an account, much like, you know, if you had a relationship with a person and it just was not working out and you break up, okay, and you separate and you're not going to have anything to do with them anymore. And that doesn't mean you don't ever talk, but you're not necessarily in close connection or friendship with them. We can kind of experience that too with our customers. When they don't pay us, that fractures the relationship. And so when they don't pay us, we can go through a process called writing off the account, and that's simply canceling their account. Now, this doesn't mean I just forget about it. I don't, but I'm going to take it off on my accounting books, okay? I'm going to remove it from my records there that they have an outstanding account because they haven't paid me. So you remember in our first example, we had Edmonds Hospital, and their account was really past due. They were like over 90 days past due. And when they're at that point, I think on our chart, it said that when an account gets into that age category, we applied that 80% of whatever was in that age of accounts receivable, we would not be able to collect. Well, that's true. The more an account becomes past due, the less likely we are to collect it. So here we are on January 25th. We have decided to write off Edmonds Hospital, write off their past due balance, and put it as uncollectible, $639.88. We're going to prepare a memo as our source document. Okay, so let's think about what needs to happen here. Because it's no longer going to be that I have an estimate of who's not going to pay me. I actually know who isn't paying me. So what I'm going to do is debit the allowance for uncollectible accounts, because this is no longer an estimate. This has actually happened. Okay. I'm going to debit the allowance for uncollectible accounts. That account normally has a credit balance, and so you can see the new balance of that account. Okay, so there's my debit. But where else am I going to see credits? I'm going to credit my accounts receivable because I want to reduce that. I'm not going to be getting that money from Edmonds Hospital. I also want to credit Edmonds Hospital, the subsidiary account there in the accounts receivable ledger. Okay. So here's my journal entry. And you can see again, we've got a break in the page here. I'm starting on line 22. So I've just got the date, the 25th. And there's my debit to the allowance for uncollectible accounts. There's my source document. There's the amount of the debit, $639.88. And then there's my credit to accounts receivable. This is a compound entry. Remember, accounts receivable and also that subsidiary account, Edmonds Hospital. Okay, $639.88. Remember we'll divide the post reference there because the first account, accounts receivable, when we post this, that account number will go in the top half, Edmonds Hospital will go in the bottom half. And then there's the credit. So the debits and the credits equal. Okay, so that's what it would look like that we've written them off. Okay. Look at the posting of that now. So here's the journal entry that we just did. I now want to go post that to the accounts receivable, and you can see what it does. Back up here. You can see what that does to my account balance. So if I'm crediting accounts receivable, it reduces the balance. Okay. And then I'm also posting that debit here to the allowance for uncollectible accounts. And you can see what that does. It reduces that balance. Okay. And then we've also got the amount to Edmonds Hospital. Okay. General Journal, page 16, G16 is our post reference. Look what it does to our balance here. It zeroes it out. Okay, but there's an important step that we're adding here. We want to add this note in the item section that says written off. Because should Edmonds Hospital ever want to come back and get more materials from us, we're going to say, no, if you do, you need to pay us cash. And actually, before we even will sell you more things, you need to pay this balance, $639.88, because we wrote that off. So we would need to restore your account. And then we can maybe work with you on a cash basis only. All right. There are post references. Go back to the general journal with account numbers. Okay, and we're all good. So reopening an account that was previously written off. So as I was saying, it could happen that the customer comes back later and pays us because maybe, generally customers, when they don't pay, there's usually some kind of problem and maybe they got it resolved. And so Edmonds Hospital, here on March 9th, it says we received cash from them. So that's good. They must have had an attack of conscience or, situation changed, whatever. They've suddenly got the money and they're like, hey, we need to pay them. Let's do it. Okay, great. I will take their cash every day of the week. Okay. Received cash in full payment of Edmonds Hospital, previously written off. It was uncollectible, $639.88. So I've got to prepare a memo, and I also need to prepare a receipt. 2 source documents there. How have we handled that? Let's take a look. Okay. So when I reopen an account, what I essentially have to do is put it back on the accounts receivable. So you can see here I've got the date March 9th. Debiting the accounts receivable. Okay. I also want to reverse that entry that I made to the allowance for uncollectible accounts. Okay, because this amount needs to go back into that estimate. Okay, so I'm going to recreate that, get that accounts receivable back on there. Okay, and then I'm also going to put this back on Edmonds Hospital so that then I can reflect a payment. Okay. So you're going to see that journal entry right here with the date, March 9th, the debit to accounts receivable and also Edmonds Hospital. There's my memo, 71, that I prepared why I'm making this entry. That's a compound entry, so we're going to split the post reference, $639.88, and then the credit to the allowance for uncollectible accounts, $639.88. So you see, essentially, I'm reversing that first entry that we made when we wrote it off. Okay, so that's happened. But now I still haven't accounted for the cash that they've paid because I showed that there's an accounts receivable there. So let's look at the second part of this. Because they paid me cash, so I'm going to be debiting cash, but where do you think the credit's going to go? Yeah, the accounts receivable and also Edmonds Hospital. So that's going to put it back to a zero balance, right? Let's look at how that posting would look. Because this is receiving cash, that means it's going to be in our cash receipts journal. Okay, got the date. Going to list Edmonds Hospital there. My source document, receipt 695. It's going to go on the accounts receivable, and also Edmonds Hospital as a credit. Okay, and then there is my debit to cash. Okay. So then when I post, what does that look like? So when we post it, there's the general journal. Okay. And when we are creating that entry here for March 9th, when we reopen it, notice we've got detail here. We reopen the account. Okay. And then when we post the cash receipts, I'm jumping ahead here a little bit. Okay. So then when we post the cash receipts, notice what it does. So if you look at the trail here, here's where we recreated the balance on their account, G19, and then cash receipts, the posting of that brings it back to a zero balance. So now their account's in good standing, okay? And notice what it does here. Okay, we put it back on the accounts receivable. Sorry, and then we don't have the posting of that yet. That'll happen, the cash or posting to the accounts receivable will happen at the end of the month. But when we post this amount, it gets posted to Edmonds Hospital. Now you may be saying, when's it to the accounts receivable? That's what I was alluding to. Remember when we total the cash receipts journal, that total will then get posted to the accounts receivable. That's why you don't see it up here yet, but you will at the end of the month. Okay. Here are your audit, your understanding, review questions. Those are always good to go through. And let's move on and go look at working papers for 14.2.